Hello, everyone. My name is Herman Chow. I'm your professor for Theories and Methods of Family Therapy number one. So I'm glad to spend some time with you this semester, talking through this course. So let me just maybe run through the syllabus and the introduction with you a bit, so that you have a idea where we're going for the rest of the semester. Okay, so I'm going to bring up my PowerPoint slides here. Right. So again, this is theories and methods of family therapy number one. Um, so the course description. So this is really a introduction course on the current theories and intervention methods of family therapy. This is by no means a intensive course, right? We'll be skimming over five different models for this semester. The next course you do with me the next semester in family therapy number two, we'll be looking at another five therapeutic models. So we only get to spend up roughly about two classes per model. So we're not going to be able to dive in very deeply, but we're going to scale over the contents just to give you enough of an overview of the course, okay, of each of the model. So that's the hope, okay, for this course. Some of the learning outcomes for this course, and it'll be roughly the same for the next semester as well. Both courses are roughly the same, just that they're different models, okay, that we'll be presenting. There are four learning outcomes for this course. The first one is your ability to be able to critique the strength and the weaknesses of the resources relevant to family therapy. So in the master level course, we would like you to have this ability to critique, right? At this level, we should no longer really be spoon-fed, right? Yeah, you need to be able to come in with the ability to critique about what you're learning. So what fits you, what doesn't fit you, what is the strength, what is the weaknesses of the model. By doing that, right, we're hoping that by able to critique it, you can start to take in about things that you like, things that you see that as a strength that you like to integrate into your own therapy, right? The thing that you don't really enjoy, you don't like, doesn't quite fit you, you might not choose to integrate into what you do. Okay, so the ability to critique the model is so important, especially in the master level. Another learning outcome is that we'd like you to be able to learn about the distinctiveness of the family therapy approaches studying during this term. You'll be looking at five models. They're roughly most of them are the classical models, but each model comes in at a different path, right, of how to create change, how to help people, basically. Someone comes in with depression, for example. Well, a model will approach, each model will come at it differently to learn to say, well, this is how I'm going to bring about change for you, for the client, right? So each model would sort of teach you about how change are created, right? So we want to help you to learn the distinctiveness of each of those approaches, okay, as well. Three and four actually goes together. Learning outcome three and four actually talks about the ability to conceptualize a case. So clients comes in, they tell you their stories, right? Where they get stuck, what is the goal, and from that point on, you should be able to do two things. You should be able to conceptualize, right? Conceptualize using multiple systemic lenses, and able to say what is creating the issue for this family or this couple or this individual, right? What is creating the problem for them, right? And based on what you're seeing, you go like, okay, here's the issue. This is what we need to work on. So at that point on, you should be able to construct and help them to develop a appropriate treatment plan and appropriate treatment interventions. So learning outcome three and four actually goes together. You should be able to conceptualize the case, noticing what's creating the problem, and then offering a treatment plan to help your client. CLPO will require you to do that. Your college requires you to go like, okay, you met with your clients for one session or two, the most, right? And then from that point on, you got to be able to develop a treatment plan. This is how I'm going to help you, right? And then you need to ask for the consent. Is it okay that we do this particular approach and this particular way of helping you? Would you like to do that, right? It's only after they give us consent that's when treatment actually occurs. You technically you shouldn't offer treatment at that point until you get consent. Okay, so just want to be very clear on that. So that's typical for any health professionals. Doctors, the same thing, right? Or PT, right? An OT, doesn't matter, right? Any health professional comes in, they listen to the client's or the patient's issues based on their conceptualization, based on what they see is the problem, they will offer a treatment plan. This is how I'm going to help you guys. Okay. So those are the four learning outcomes that we wish that you could perhaps get out from this particular course. Okay. Um, in terms of the textbook, if you actually look at your syllabus, let me just turn to my syllabus too. It's in page 3, right? On page 3 of your syllabus, it will actually indicate your required reading. That's really only one book for this course. It's expensive, but at the same time, you would use this book again in the next semester. So actually, it's not too bad, right? So the book that we're using is based on Nicole's and Davis' book. It's called Family Therapy Concepts and Methods. We're in our 12th edition. Okay, I would suggest you get the 12th. It's only the 12th edition and higher will only be in the e-text, right? You can also get the 11th edition. That's the probably only one that can still get in a hard copy. I would not go anything lower than 11. Okay, 11th edition. That's even if you can get your hands on it. I would think that at this point, most people can only get the 12th edition. Okay. Just to give you the heads up. So that's the required text that you need to have. And please, again, read each chapter before you come to class. I'm going to lecture as if you have read it. Okay. But I know the reality sometimes things gets busy, right? We fall behind, but do make sure you do catch up. Okay. Okay. So I'm going to go through the 3 assignments that you have for this course. The 3 assignments actually going to be the same for the next semester for family therapy number 2. Just that again, the content will be different, but what I'm going to ask you to do is roughly the same. So there are 3 basically assignments you need to do. The first one is called a group project. It's a video analysis. This is worth 15% of your grades. So maybe what I can do is actually share my syllabus. Let me just bring that up right now in the syllabus here so that we can go through that together. Okay. All right. So this is located on page 3 and page 4. I should say page 3 and 4 of your syllabus. Okay, page 3 of your syllabus. So this is your first project you'll be working on. So this is a group project you'll be doing together as a group. You will not know your group member until the day off. I'm just going to assume to put you guys into a group, right? Because you don't need to work on this ahead of time. So basically, this is a video analysis of a therapy session. This is happening on October the 8th. You do need to come prepare before October the 8th. You need to at least watch the video that you're supposed to analyze. And then on October the 8th, during class, you'll be getting together with your small group and then able to have some conversation around it. And I'm going to walk you through it, okay? So this assignment is really to help you to develop the ability to identify and to critique the distinctiveness of the approach, whether it's a couple or family therapy approach. For this semester, the video that we're watching is actually on Emotionally Focused Therapy in Action by Sue Johnson. So this is, you can watch this for free through the psychotherapy.net. The instructions are listed in your syllabus. But basically, before you come on October the 8th, you should have watched this video already, okay? Because if you don't, you will not be able to interact with your small group, and you're going to be evaluated by your own group members, okay, according to your discussion, okay? You'll be watching a EFT session with Sue Johnson with this couple called Matt and Rhea. There's part 1 and part 2. You only really need to watch part 2, the actual session itself. But if you have time, if you're interested, also watch part 1. That will give you a bit more of a maybe introduction to EFT. Okay, but the part 2 is what you must watch. So you can access that through psychotherapy.net through this particular link, which is located in your syllabus. So on the day off, on October the 8th, you'll be assigned to a group of 4 to 5 people, right? Again, you will not know your group member until the day off, and each group will have about 1.5 hours to discuss the video. If you are in the morning class, the 8:15 class, that's the schedule. If you look at this part over here, that's the schedule that you'll be going by. You would do your discussion from 8:20 to about 9:30, and then we'll take a break from 15 minutes break, which is always your break in the morning for the 8:15 class around 9:30 to 9:45. And after that, you come back and wrap up with the discussion. And then we definitely will wrap things up by 10:15. And then from 10:15 to 10:30, and then each member on your own, you'll be completing your own evaluation of your group member. You'll be the one evaluating your group member about their contribution to the discussion. Okay, similar to the 11:15 class, you can look at the schedule here. You have the discussion, and then the break is at 12:30 to 12:45, and then you wrap up the discussion by 1:15. Okay, and then between 1:15 to 1:30 for the afternoon class or morning class from 10:15 to 10:30, you'll be completing the group process evaluation form. Okay, and then you need to send that back to me by the end of the day. Okay, and then we'll come back to wrap up with the class at the end of that at either at 10:30 or at 1:30, depending on which class you belong to. The focus on the analysis and discussion is on 4 areas. Okay, we're going to ask you to take a look at 4 areas of the video. For example, in A, I'm going to ask you to talk about the therapist micro intervention. What intervention did you actually observe? For example, in this case, Sue Johnson. What did she use? What are some of the micro intervention that she used to work with a couple? Did she use reflection, validation, or some of the intervention that she was using? For example, how well were they using it, and what was helpful to you or was not helpful to you? The questions that I listed here is only sample questions. They are by no means all the questions that you are only allowed to discuss. Those are just sample questions. You don't have to finish all those questions, nor are you limited by only those questions. Those are just questions to help you to think about how to talk about this particular topic on the therapist micro intervention. And then you do the same thing for B, C, and D. B will be about the therapeutic process. For example, what direction is the therapist going? How well and not well is the therapist moving the client? How effective was the client? How effective was the therapist tuning into the client? And then C is the client's response, right? How was the client's like? How did they respond to the therapist? What was their reaction? What was the alliances like between the therapist and the client? What kind of motivation did you notice in the client? Right? Those are all different kind of questions. Again, you're not limited by those questions alone. The last one is more about the self as therapist reflection. This is where you're going to come in and think about your own reaction when you're watching this video, when you're watching the therapist. What came up strongly for you? What resonated? What did not resonate? What did you even notice about your own body responses? Right? So this is your self as therapist category, which is a very important category for any therapist, right? About your own self, your own reflection. So in your discussion in that an hour and a half, you're supposed to talk about all 4 different categories. Okay. And how much time you spend on each category is up to you, right? Each group, but I would like it for you guys to maybe try to talk about all 4. Okay, so making sure somebody's keeping track of time and not overspending time in one particular section, ignoring the other 2 or 3 topics. And after the discussion, like I said, I'm slotting in about 15 minutes for each person to do your group process evaluation form. This is where you're going to be evaluating your other group member, not yourself. Okay, so this is just you to evaluate the contribution from your group members. Okay. There are four different categories that I'm going to ask you to critique on. One is their critical thinking, their ability to critically analyze the material, right? Do they have critical thinking? How well do they do that? Communication, how well do they effectively communicate themselves, right? They don't have to be like super eloquent, but were they able to be effectively communicate what they want to say to you? Preparation, did they come prepared? Or did they sort of wing it, right? If they didn't come prepared, they shouldn't get a good score on this area. And then also equability. Were they able to collaborate? Did they actually contribute? And also, did they allow other people or invite other people to contribute? Right? Those are all about equitability. Okay. So if you continue to follow this, if you look at the format of this, right? So basically, you're scoring only your group members. So here is where you write your own name on the top and the group number, which is your Zoom number. Please remember to write this down. Okay. And then you write down your group member's name. So let's say you have 5 members, or not including yourself. You do not need to write your own name because your name already goes on top, but your other group members will go here. Person A, person B, person C, etc. Right? And then for each person, you're gonna score them in each of those four categories. Critical thinking is out of 35. So give them a score of 35. Let's say you give them 30, 30 out of 35. That's why you write down 30 here. And then you do the same thing for all four categories. And then you add them up. Please do add them up. Okay. The score should add up to 100, right? So they will get a score out of 100. So you will give each group member a score out of 100 for their contribution. What I'm going to do is after I collected all the forms, I'm going to for each person's score, I'm going to remove your highest score and your lowest score. I'm going to average out whatever is remaining, and that will be a score for this project. So I think that way is fair. We remove the highest, we remove the lowest, whatever the average is left. That's your group. Okay, that's your score, I should say. You can certainly write down any comments that you have about your experience of your group and whatnot. Now, I would not expect people to score 100%, right? Because to score 100% meaning basically you did it perfectly, perfectly. Not that many people can do things perfectly, right? Especially if you look at Tyndale standards about what is an A plus, right? That's really you have to exceed all areas, right? Exceed standards in all areas, not just some areas, but all areas. Okay. And if you did score anybody 100, I need you to write down a comment for me about why you scored them 100. Okay. Just to let you know. You need to submit the evaluation to me by the end of the day, which by 11:59 of the day. Otherwise, 1 hour 15 points will be deducted for late and incomplete submission. Okay, so make sure you score everybody, have everybody's name, add up the total, right? Otherwise, you will get point deducted. Now, if you yeah, another thing I should make sure that you know is that is the only thing you need to submit is the evaluation form. There's no written submission at all because I want you to have this opportunity to fully immerse in the discussion without worrying about writing a paper. So the paper is worth 15% of your grades. Let me go back here just to make sure I'm right. Yeah. So this paper is worth 15% of your grade. And this is happening on October the 8th. Okay. Let me scroll back down here. Now, if you missed the group project, okay, somehow, so for some reason, let's say if you're away on the presentation day for a legitimate reason, the weight of this paper will be evenly applied to your next two assignments, which I'm going to talk about, right? But if you don't have a legitimate reason for missing the group presentation, you get 0 for the assignment, right? So usually legitimate reasons around illness, usually with doctor note, or something legitimate. Going to a mission conference is not legitimate. Okay, just want to say that up front, because you sign up for this course, you have to be here for this course. Okay. Okay, so that's group presentation number 1. Okay. The second assignment is your critique paper, which is worth 40% of your grades. This is due on November the 12th. Okay. So this assignment basically evaluate how well you can critique and notice the distinctiveness of the various family therapy model that are studied in this course. So this is where I want to hear your own thoughts, not the thoughts of other people, right? Not other writers, not ChatGPT, but your own critique of this. Okay. So you need to write a personal critique paper on two of the family therapy model that you would have studied up to that point. Because this is about midway through the course, you wouldn't have gone through all five models yet. You will only have fully gone through the first two models, which is Bowenian and strategic. You would just have watched the video on structural and maybe lecture through a bit of it. So it's up to you whether you want to choose that to critique or not. Most people will probably just do the first two. It's really up to you, but you must choose from two of the three listed here. Okay, not any other models. So pick two models that I'd like you to critique on. Okay, basically, I want to hear from you to critique about your critique about how they fit and do not fit with you personally. So I want to emphasize is both fit and do not fit, right? When you critique something, it's something about you, what you like about it and what don't you like about it. It's always both. Shouldn't be only one and not the other. Okay, so I want to hear what fits and what does not fit you personally. But I'd like you to focus in two topics. Okay, one is you on your own clinical approach, the way you see yourself practicing, clinically practicing, whether you are practicing already or not, right? If you're not practicing, maybe potentially how you like to see yourself practicing clinically. And if you're already practicing, like what kind of, like being the kind of therapist you are, how does those two models fit you and does not fit you, right? So that's in your first category. The second category, I want you to maybe comment on how did the model fit and does not fit you in terms of your personal values or faith system. Now, coming from a Tyndale background, I suspect maybe most of you would talk about your own faith system, right? As a Christian, how does the model fit you and doesn't fit you? Okay, again, your answers should be different from person to person, right? I really shouldn't be hearing the thoughts of other people other than your own, right? So I'd like you to critique that. The only other things that I like to add in each of the model. So you just have to add in at least one element on each of the model in when you're critiquing it. What do I mean by element? An element could be anything from a contextual factor like culture, gender, racism, religion, or past experience, right? Maybe family of your own family of origin experiences, maybe your own personal counseling experiences, or maybe your own supervision experiences. Let's say if you're already a practicing therapist, right? Or the last one could be personal feelings, right? Make sure that I'm hearing your own personal feelings, not thoughts, but feelings. Okay. So in each of those models, I like you to include at least one element. That's it. Nothing fancy. Just one. Okay. At least one. I mean, you want to write more than one, that's up to you, but you have very limited space. So I would rather you write less, but write it well with qualities to it, rather than try to give me 10 different things that you did not like really give me very good quality of writing. Okay. There's no need for an introduction or conclusion for this assignment. So go straight into the writing, critiquing. There's no need for a conclusion as well. The paper should be 4 pages long, double space, typed, 12-point arrow font with 1-inch margin. And I like it only in PDF format. You will have to submit that through Moodle's page. You will only accept PDF files. Okay, make sure that this is a PDF. One of the reasons why is because sometimes if we submit it in words, the formatting can go outside of the 4 pages. Then we won't be accepting it, right? We'll only be reading within the page limit, right? I have instructed the grader. I'm not the one grading a paper, but the grader will only read the first 4 written pages. So you need to have a proper title page, and then you're writing your writing of the assignment, and then if you have any appendix and whatnot, you can include it at the end. Okay. Since this is a critique paper, I don't expect you to do research All right. So you probably wouldn't have any citation, but of course, the general rule of thumb applies to any paper is if you are quoting somebody, if it's not your work, right, then yeah, give citation to it, right? You do need to include appendix at that point. But again, for this assignment and even the next one, I actually don't expect any citations. Okay. Please submit the paper through Moodle, um, and only in PDF format. You can actually see the rubrics for details of the expectation of this assignment. When I come back from my trip, I will go through this with you again, okay, just in case you have any questions to clarify. All right, that's your assignment number 2. Assignment number 3, which is your last assignment. So this is your treatment plan paper. This is worth 45% of your grades. The due date is on December the 10th, which I believe is the last day of the semester. It's due on that date. The purpose of this paper is to evaluate how well you can prepare an integrative treatment plan. Like I was telling you before, right? Like a treatment plan is a must for any health professional, right? So we would like you to be able to learn how to write an integrative treatment plan. So the assignment goes like this. You'll be watching a movie called The Descendants. You might even have seen it. It's by George Clooney, etc. So watch the movie. Use the movie as the backdrop for a case study. Okay? And then from this point on, you'll be writing a treatment plan for the King's family. Okay? The video, you can get free access to the video, again, through the link here on your syllabus. Okay, you should be able to access that for free. But again, you need to sign on to your Tyndale account first before you can do that. After watching the video, so I'm going to ask you to pretend that a few weeks after the end of the movie, the family of 3, Matt, Alex, and Scotty, will came to you for counseling, for family counseling. Okay, so remember the role that you're playing. You are the family therapist. Okay, you're not the individual therapist. You're not the couples therapist. You are the family therapist. And they expressed that their goal was to improve their family relationship. Okay, they want to be more connected as a family. You only saw them for that one session, right? And you just have gathered enough information, basically what you learned from the movie, right? To propose a treatment plan as a family therapist. Okay, and this treatment plan should be 6 pages in length. The written portion of it should be only 6 pages in length. Again, just as a reminder, the grader is instructed not to read beyond the page limit in any assignment. So even if you have written 8 pages, we only read the first 6. The last 2 pages as if you didn't write it. So if you are missing information, critical information, you would not get scored. You would not get a score for the last 2 pages. Okay. So in this paper, along with a title page, a reference page, and appendix page, you should include the following 3 sections and a genogram. Okay, so there are 3 main sections you need to write about. The first one is the conceptualization. Okay, so I was saying to you earlier when we first introduced the course, to conceptualize the case is to really look at what is creating the problem for this family. Basically, it's what is contributing to the problem, what is blocking the goal. If the goal here is about the family's connection, right? I already gave you the goal for this particular case. So conceptualization basically is you're looking at what is blocking the goal. Why is this family not connecting very well? So you are going to use system languages to describe the problem. What's contributing to the problem? So I want to hear you using system language to describe it for me. So I'd like you to pick at least 4 things, 4 conceptualization that you notice are problematic. Okay? That is creating problem for this family. You're going to include from a number of various different systems, right? We're going to go through some of the details in one of the classes, right? When I go through the treatment plan again with way more details. But for now, for the syllabus, I just want to highlight that there are various different systems. You guys are all trained to become a systemic therapist, right? So when you look at a case, you got to come at looking at a case through using system lenses, such as the individual system. What is this individual like? Do they have any mental health issue? How is the emotion expression? Do they have any other perhaps illness, right? Any of those things, are they contributing to the problem of the family disconnection, for example, right? The next one is interactional, right? Interaction, like how is the boundaries like between the family members? What is the do they have did they caught themselves in a negative cycle, right? So those are examples of that. Intergenerational, right? Between different generations, do we see any problems between like family rules, right? Or family roles that they play? Is that contributing to any of the problem? Family life cycle, life stage they're in. What is normal, what is not normal, what is predictable, what is not predictable. So you need to track that. And also community too, right? What the community that they belong to, is that also contributing to some of the issues that they're dealing with, right? Again, the details of it, I'll come back and explain more during one of the lectures. But for now, I just want you to pay attention to that. This is where I like you to use the multiple different lenses to conceptualize the case. Whatever you feel are most relevant to this case. Okay? But you need to pick 4 conceptualizations. I want to be clear. When I say 4 conceptualizations, I don't mean 4 systems. Okay? I don't mean 4 systems. So here I list down like 5 systems here, right? Individual, interactional, intergenerational, family life cycle, and community. So in those 5 systems, those are systems. Those are not directly conceptualizations. So technically, when I say at least 4 conceptualizations, you can pick 2 from individual, 1 from interactional, and 1 in intergenerational, if you wish, right? And you don't have to use all of them. Okay? Just you have to pick whichever one that you feel is most relevant to what you're doing. Okay? So you need to include examples when you're describing what is creating the problem for this family. Give some actual examples. You don't have to repeat the whole movie, but just key examples of what you notice, right? So examples, whatever is pertaining to your conceptualizations, using system languages, and at least also include at least 2 research to support your treatment interventions for later or referrals for later. People always ask about how come I'm including the research here and not later. So technically, after you conceptualize the case, right? And then now you go like, okay, here's some of the problems. Now, before you actually offer interventions, you have to ask yourself is, well, based on research, what is evidence-based? What actually will work to help us with those issues, right? You technically shouldn't be you offering any interventions until you have a good idea about what research is telling you. So I'm asking you to include the research part of it in the later part of the conceptualization. So after you list the 4 conceptualizations, right? And then I'd like you to include 2 research to talk about, based on those things that I'm seeing, help me to build a bridge between what to do, what I noticed are the problems in conceptualizations, to the next section on the intervention. Before you actually offer interventions, you really should have done your research to notice what will be most helpful. Okay? So I'd like you to include the research part of it. It's just about 1 paragraph long under the last part of conceptualizations, okay, in part A. Altogether, part A should be about 3 pages long. Okay? The second section is the interventions. So now you notice what's creating the problem for this family, and you have some good research to show you, right? To say what will be most helpful in this case. Now you're ready to offer interventions. So this is where you'll be a bit more limited. I'm going to ask you to select only 2 family therapy approaches from this course, right? And we'll be looking at the 5: Bowenian, strategic, structural, CBT, and psychoanalytic, right? You are only allowed to choose 2 of those models, right? Not three, not one, but two of those out of the five, and offer intervention from those perspective. Clearly indicated at least four intervention from which model you have selected, and to offer those intervention, right? This intervention to somewhat is tied to your research to say what will be most helpful. Sometimes you might not get a direct linkage to say, oh, research says to do structural and strategic. You might not get all that, right? But sometimes research might give you a portion of it, right? Maybe researchers say, even though they don't particularly name structural per se as a model to be evidence based, but they would talk about, yeah, they based on research, talking about boundaries will be helpful, right? Working on the boundaries could be helpful, and structural and strategic both talk about boundaries, so you can certainly use that as a way to offer, right, as your intervention when you list boundaries, setting, and whatnot as an intervention. Okay. You should discuss in depth how you would use at least four interventions from the two selected models that help you with the what's connected to the above problems. Whatever the first four, sorry, not first four, that the four conceptualization that you talked about in part A, your intervention and your referrals should actually address all four of those issues. Okay. Because you actually try to address how to sort of resolve those blocks, right? That disconnection. So whatever you've chosen, your four interventions, and later on, I'm going to talk about the four referrals. You really together, they should address all four conceptualizations. Okay. And you need to include the following for this particular sections. You need to include what are the two therapy that you've chosen. What is the specific interventions or technique that you have decided to use? So at least four, right? And also some examples of what the technique would look like. So make sure that you give specific examples of the techniques, right? Don't just say, I'm going to ask process question from Bowen. Well, what kind of process question for this particular family you're going to ask? Who are you going to ask? Right? Are you going to ask dad? What question are you asking dad? What question are you asking the oldest daughter? And what questions are you asking the youngest daughter? Like, so be specific about that. Okay. And whenever possible, always incorporate deaf and system language into your writing. Okay. So that's your section number 2. The last section is the referrals section. By the way, I forgot to mention the intervention section is about 2.5 pages long. Okay. The conceptualization is 3 pages long. Interventions are 2.5 pages long. The last section is your referrals section. It's only about half a page. It's not very long. So in this section, I'd like you to see you offer at least 4 appropriate referral for this family, right? To further their goals of connection. So you should have, again, right? But I'm just repeating myself. Between your intervention and your referral, right? You should have already addressed all 4 of the previous discussion on the 4 conceptualization. Okay. You should be able to address all that. Referrals can be anything from books, community resources, support groups, referral to other therapists, etc., right? But you should also clearly convey why those referrals are helpful. Again, it doesn't have to be very long, right? You don't have to write a whole essay around it. You only have half a page to discuss 4 referrals, but just clearly indicate about what they are, how they're helpful. Okay. Because the movie is based in Hawaii, okay, I'm going to ask you to pretend that you're also located in Hawaii as well. So wherever resources that you're locating, I'm going to ask you to try to find Hawaii resources, okay? Just pretending you are a therapist there. All right, so that's your last paper. Oh, sorry, I forgot to mention about the genogram. So for this paper, you also need to include the genogram, at least a 3-generational genogram, both a static and a dynamic genogram. Static, basically just your average genogram with names and information. Dynamic is really referring to the relationships, right? Who's in conflict with who's actually more over functioning, right? Things like that would indicate from your lines and diagrams. That will give us a bit of an idea about what those relational patterns may be. Okay. And in your journalgram, you should also include anything that is relevant information and nodal event. There are always some. So you need to get specific around that. Your journalgram really is a one-page summary of some of the key ideas about this family that you're working with, right? In the old days when I was doing journalgram, not before I even see my family, or before I'm actually going to see them, I always take a look at the journalgram first, just to catch up a bit, remind myself who am I working with, right? Some of the details around it. So the genogram is a nice way to capture all the like some of the details, right? For the genogram, you can do a hand-drawn genogram is equally as good as a computer generated genogram. You won't get bonus point for anything, right? If it's easier for you to use computer generated, you certainly can, right? Uh, but you must include a legend on the side. The legend should include what the symbol means that you're using, right? If you don't remember, if I mean, if you don't remember what those symbols you can use, you can definitely Google it. During the lecture, when I go through that again, I'm going to include a link for you to use as well. Okay. So the genogram goes into your appendix. This is not part of your 6 written pages. No diagram should be part of the body of writing. Okay. If you have any other diagrams that you'd like to include, again, please put it in your appendix. Let me say a quick word about the appendix, right? Appendix is not a way for you to hide more writing in it, right? Really, that's the appendix really is it should be about your diagrams, any key information that you don't want to put in the body of writing. But we're not going to spend a long time just reading your appendix, right? Because you don't want to, cut down any of the writing, right, in your 6 pages. So please don't use that to disguise your extra writings. Again, introduction and conclusions are not necessary for this assignment. The paper must be typed double-spaced, 12-point arrow font, 1-inch margin, and again in PDF format only. During one of the lectures, I'm going to go through in greater details about the treatment plan. So please hold on to your questions for now. We'll get back into it. You need to write this in paragraph, like the paper in paragraph form, APA style. No point forms is allowed in this paper. And that's, again, please do not retell the story except what is necessary to describe the family pattern. The grader will not be beyond the page limit. Okay, you only have 6 written page limit. Please use those space wisely. Yeah. Again, you can look at rubrics for the details of expectations and submit the paper through Moodles. All right. So that's, I believe, is all the assignment. If you continue to read through the syllabus, there's some expected written standards that you can get familiarized with. And all papers are submitted through Moodle, and your assignments should be in PDF format only, and you will receive your grades through Moodle as well. All right, so let me exit here. Let me go back to my PowerPoint slides. So again, those are the 3 assignments, right? The group project, critique paper, and the treatment plan paper. So there were 15%, 40%, and 45%. They add up to 100. I'm not going to go through this in great detail. You should know by now. But I just want to highlight to you the key difference between A and B, okay, in terms of grade. Of course, everybody wants an A, right? But to get an A, you basically have to exceed expected standards in all respects, not in some, not even in many. A B is exceeds expected standards in many respects. Okay, so please keep that in mind, right? If you ever want to question your papers, there's a couple of things I'd like you to follow. First, go back to looking at if you want an A, did you exceed expected standards in all respects, right? And also, my rule of thumb is this, right? We're gonna have a grader to grade your papers, right? And if you have any questions, please go and talk to your grader first. Okay. And then if you still are not happy with your grades, you can challenge it, right? You can come to me. Okay. Now, if I will remark your paper, I will mark it with a clean slate. But please expect this, okay? You can possibly get a higher grade, or you can get exactly the same grades, or you can possibly get a lower grade, right? So you can't just challenge out of no reason, right? You can certainly talk to your grader first, and if you're not happy with that, you can come to me. But at that point, I'm going to regrade your paper, and you will receive your grade as such, as whatever grades I'm going to give you at that point. Okay, and it had happened before. Someone argued for a few extra points, and actually, I thought the grader was overly generous already, so I actually gave them a lower score, just so that you know. Okay. Yeah. So those are the grading system. Written standards, basic rules of grammar and spelling, making sure that it's clear and concise, follow APA guidelines, PDF, 12 arrow point font, 1 inch border, make sure you have a title page for all your assignments, except for your group evaluation. You don't need that. And then number your pages, okay? And stay within your page limit. We don't read beyond page limit. And plagiarism, that this is the most important piece, right? Making sure that this is your own work. Just make sure that this is coming from you. Otherwise, you bypass your own learning if this is not your own work. Okay. So again, just a reminder: all assignments are submitted through Moodle. If you go to the Moodle's page, there are like submission uh, areas for Moodle. You can submit that, and I believe the grader will also grade your paper in that as well. Deadlines. In typical circumstances, all late papers will be deducted 1/3 grade point. What that means is, let's say if you get a B on your paper, like normally you get a B, but because it was late, then you get a B minus. You drop like 1 grade point down. And no papers is accepted after 1 week past the due date. So you got 7 days, right? After that, we don't even accept the paper. Okay. In extreme circumstances, please follow the instruction in your syllabus, which the details are there. And usually it doesn't exceed 4 weeks from the due date. And anything past I believe is called the registers. They have a date, the last date. I don't even have permission to go past that particular date. You can look at the syllabus on that. Yeah. Okay. Now, if you have accommodation, please read your accommodation plan very carefully. I follow it very carefully, right? So if you have accommodation plan, usually means that you might be allowed up to 2 weeks in some cases, right? And please notice it's only allowed up to 2 weeks. You don't always get to two full weeks, right? And you have to negotiate with me, paper to papers, right? Person to persons. So if you don't, I believe usually you need to negotiate with me up at least a week in advance. In some cases 3 days in advance. This is all on your own accommodation plan. I'm going to look at your accommodation plan and basically follow that strictly. Okay, so let's say if you didn't negotiate it with me a week beforehand, even though you should, I would not give you a extension. Okay, because that's what we're supposed to do. Okay. And you need to, and when you are asking for extension, you need to let me know how many days you need, right? Usually it's not the 2 full weeks, right? Unless it's a very extreme circumstances. Okay. Um, yeah. So you're expected to have read all the required chapters before class. I'm going to lecture as such. Okay. I did not give you a selected bibliography for this semester only because Nicole's book actually offer a very up-to-date comprehensive list. So I don't need to give you more reading list. It's already in your textbook. Next semester I will, because two of the models that we're going to be looking at next semester are not covered in the textbook. So I will give you a separate bibliography for next semester. In terms of my availability, because I do teach 2 classes in a row. Basically family therapy one, but there are 2 classes. So I teach at 8:15 and 11:15. So depending which class you belong to, you might be able to catch me before the class start or after class. But if you're in the morning class with me, I won't have a lot of time to talk to you after class. Okay. So if you're in the 8:15 class, maybe try to catch me before class starts, catch me during the break. But if you need to, book an appointment with me. And I'm usually pretty good with email. I usually try to reply within the day. Okay. Any emergency, please do text me or call me at my number, but that's only for emergency only. All right. So those are my availability. I'm going to save the questions when I come back. Okay. But if you have any questions, please email me. I'll try to answer some of the questions by email. All right. All right. So I just want to maybe go through a few things, right? Uh, the way we think about our model, right, in Tyndale, we're looking at systems, right, which is very different than individual psychology. Individual psychology look at the individual, like the person themselves, like one individual, right? It will look at the parts, right? Look at their mental aspect. We look at their own emotional aspect, right? Different parts of them. We might even focus about their past, their family of origin. That's your typical individual psychology. In family system, we come at it slightly differently. We're looking at not just the individual, but we're looking at a group. Herman Child is different just when you meet me one-on-one, but you might experience me differently if you see me and my wife together, or me and my parents together. It went right. So I'm gonna become probably it's very different in the different depending on which particular system I belong to, right? Um, and which is common. The way we even behave could be very different if it's like one-on-one, or if you see me in the context of me and my parents, it could be very different, right? So, and for us, right, for system thinkers, we believe that we won't truly get to know that person well. We won't see everything about that person until we get to experience them in various different systems. At least ask some questions around, in the various different systems. Even if I'm working with one client, like individual clients in my office, I would still like to know, let's say, assuming they're married and have family of origin. So I'm going to ask them questions around those areas. So in that sense, I have a bit of a more of a complete picture about who am I working with, right? So group focus is important. Holistically, the whole, right? People are more than the sum, right? More than just the parts. We are always the sum part of us, right? The summation of all those parts is really created of me, right? So the holistic picture, the whole picture is important to look at. And also systemic therapy tend to focus also a lot more in the present. Yeah, some models do look at the past, but definitely more and more, especially the postmodern model focus a lot more in the present time, right? Versus always focusing on the past, right? So I just want to highlight the difference between individual psychology and family system therapy. Okay. So that's important. Keep that in mind. Now, I don't know how much you remember about some of the major tenets of system theory, right? So normally, if we were in class together, I'm going to ask you to see whether you remember them, ask you to name them for me, ask you to explain them for me, because I'm not with you here. I won't bug you. But what I'm going to ask you to do is I'd like you to maybe look through some of the details that I used to include that in my lecture when we have a longer semester. I'm going to ask you to look at just a review of some of the major tenets of system theory. Okay, so you can scroll through some of this definition as a way to remind yourself. The only other thing that I want you to think about, again, we won't get to do this because I'm not in class today. I'd like you to think about the story of Cinderella. Most of you are familiar with this story. Okay, I'd like you to think about, I know the story probably from Disney, right, or from reading your book, right? But what if you look at this story through the systemic lens? Would I begin to see the story a little bit more differently, right? Because this Disney have always tried to sell us this version, right? That is the evil stepmother, Cinderella, the victim, the waiting to be rescued by the prince, right? Right. I mean, that's the fairy tale story that Disney tried to sell us. But I wonder when we start to look at this story through the systemic lens, what 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 will be some of your take on this story if we start to look at this story through that lens, right? Now, maybe perhaps when I come back, another like the third class, when I come back and see you live in person, I might ask you guys about this. Just see what are some of the learning that you might have, right? Usually, when I was teaching in class, when I get people to think through the story, people oftentimes, learn something new about how when we start to use the system lens to look at such a familiar story, we start to see it a little bit more differently. Okay, so I won't give anything away for now. Just maybe think about this story and through the systemic lens. Okay, so that's it for this class. And now thank you for watching, and I'll see you when I get back. Okay, take care.